Hey everyone, Yin Zhao here. Tonight we have Jake Adams, writer of Cobalt 1 and soon to be released Cobalt Death Stalks Us,
Yes.
Also known as Tail End Studios.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
There we go. Thanks for having me back, man. Appreciate it. It's been a while.
Yeah, I've really been looking forward to having you here. I have to say, Cobalt #1 was really a surprise hit. You were on and you made a good pitch. The book itself sounds pretty solid. You had some good art. But when there's a guest on, you never really know, like, okay, are they just showing like the 3 or 4 pages that look really good? Or is the whole thing good? But this was surprisingly solid. The art is great all the way through. The writing works. They're like, I made a review video on it, but there's really not a lot to pick on, like, what could be better.
Sure.
So
that's always good. That's the plus.
So I'm always kind of surprised when first timers get it right out of the gate. Usually you would expect, like, all right, maybe there's going to be some clunky dialogue or some odd pacing in a first book. So how did you take steps to ensure that the quality would be as high as it was?
So my first outing with comics script writing was with the 7-page origin story that's in the back of Cobalt. So that was my very first come to fruition comic book, and it was part of the Super Able anthology. And so when the guy approached me to be part of it, I hadn't had anything to do with writing comics whatsoever. I was always writing in English class and writing in college with creative writers classes and stuff like that. But to sit down and be able to do this was a first time for me back in 2018. But I mean, I'm a big movie buff. So scenes and what's focused on in scenes, I'm always very in tune with it. When I go to see a movie or I'm reading a comic, I need everything around me just to shut the fuck up. I need people to leave me alone. If somebody wants to talk to me at a movie theater, I'll go 2 rows up just to get away from them. I've done that to my brother. That's how bad it is. And so very much with knowing how all these movies play out, you get the little introduction, you give a little bit of characteristics and development and how they interact with each other. Then you move on to setting up what's going to happen. Then you have the arc of why it's happening, just all the different outlines and story plots that have to take place. It was just easy to bring them together. But at the same time, I mean, I've got Swamp Thing over here. I've got Green Lantern right next to me. So I just looked at those and I was like, oh, okay. So this is the pacing. Never give more than 3 or 4 pages for one scene. After that, if you've got too much to say at that point, if you're still in that scene. So very much okay, how much do I have to say? Can I get through it in 3 or 4 pages? If not, just, knock it out. And, so doing that, I had to do that with the 7-page origin story, because when I presented the script to Travis, he was like, dude, this is a fucking 4-issue miniseries that you just gave me. You need to bring it down to 7 pages. I was like, well, what the hell do you want me to do? He was like, just hit the main points for an origin story. And I was like, all right, well, drug mule for the cartel, mother has cancer, loses his hand, becomes Cobalt, takes vengeance. He was like, good, now just work on those for 7 pages. I was like, all right, I hate being boxed in like that, but I mean, it worked out. He had to help me out with that. He was my editor, of course. And after that, I just caught the bug and wanted to continue creating. We couldn't come out with volume 2 for that because COVID took place. still on hiatus, and so I was like, guys, I really want to continue with Cobalt. I mean, I'm ADHD as fuck, so when I lock onto something, I just want to go with it, and that's what happened. So I created the series for starting with Cobalt Atlantis Thrashing.
Very cool. So when you were looking through all the books, like, did you say specifically like, oh, I like this person's pacing or that person's pacing, or was it sort of just like osmosis of like how comics were made in whatever era that
exactly.
they're from?
Just basically seeing what beats the comics hit. Like when it comes to like introductory to a comic, I've never seen it go past 4 pages for any like intro before you start the next scene. And I just mimicked that. I was like, I know how I want my story to move on and move forward. It's just what kind of pacing do I need to do that? So I looked to the comics to make sure I could get that down. And after I thought I did all right, I gave it to my brother's wife, who's a school teacher. And I was like, hey, could you read this over for me just to see if, one, it's either shit, and 2, if there's anything wrong with it. And so she did, and she was like, this is actually pretty good. And I was like, okay, good. You're still my brother's wife, so I don't believe you 100%, but I'm still good with that. So I gave that script to my artist, Erwin, and his name's Erwin Oroza. He lives in the Philippines, and we've been doing all this back on Facebook Messenger and Google Drive. And he, as you can tell in the first issue, he's a phenomenal artist. He definitely hit that that real gritty, kind of more realistic, not so cartoony comic book, something that you would see come from Mike Grell or Patrick Reynolds, more along that art. And so I love that kind of art. Any kind of like realistic or painterly arts I fall in love with. That's why the cover photo is Max Bertolini. He's worked with Dark Horse Comics and Heavy Metal Magazine. When I got him to do the cover art, I was floored with what he gave me. So yeah.
I'm really impressed with the art too, because if this book were a different genre, I think I might say like, it looks kind of dirty, it's not clean, but it's absolutely like pitch perfect for what you're going for. So I was talking with some people like about an hour ago, and we were debating, is Cobalt cyberpunk?
It's got cyberpunk elements in it. Like when I told what the book was, I said it's very much a cyberpunk neo-noir type detective, suspenseful story. And the cyberpunk was, I wanted to make sure that it did not look like, Alita Battle Angel or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I needed it to separate from it, because I also knew that Joe Catapano with Star Circuit and David Dominguez with Cerebrum were going to be that cyberpunk driven, the whole world is cyberpunk. So it's going to be very not loud. It's going to be very I'll go with that. It's going to be very loud with the colors and the atmosphere. So I was like, I need to separate it a little bit, because it's also kind of like a vigilante meeting superhero type thing also.
Yeah, in some ways it kind of reminds me of like a lot of the looks more of Blade Runner, where I mean, I know they had like some space stuff in it and everything, but a lot of it was kind of simple. It was like a detective going through grimy back streets, neon lit in a oversized metropolis. Like that's a lot of the feel that I get for this.
Yeah. So I actually based it because I lived in Atlanta, Georgia for 3 years. So I basically knew that area pretty well. And that's where I wanted this place to take story, was a cyberpunk neo-noir, very gritty, criminal underworld driven Atlanta, Georgia. And Atlanta's set up exactly like that. Like you have Midtown Atlanta, that's all the big, like, you know, skyscrapers and the beautiful parks and everything like that. But the outer, you know, the suburbs and everything, the urban areas, very much are just waiting to be torn down and put through for, you know, more skyscrapers and hotels. So I really wanted that element to be caught with Cobalt, but of course, it needed that comic book element to it. And what would you do with that? You fucking turn it into a cyberpunk neo noir type deal. So that's how I came up with that.
So you know, one thing that I've noticed too is this does come off as like a very American city. And I'm just wondering, you know, since you mentioned that Irwin is in the Philippines, how is it when you're working with a foreigner who I'm gonna guess has not been to the US? Like
Right.
how do you get them to see the US as you see the US? Just in terms of like, you know, they're not throwing in structures and architecture types that would be more common, you know, that they would see in the Philippines or something.
Right. So I gave Irwin a couple pictures of different destinations around Atlanta, along with pictures of like cyberpunk, you know, gritty like streets and backgrounds. So we had those to pull from. But I'll tell you, for that splash page where Cobalt's looking over the corner of the street where the Thrashers hang out for Engage, all those neon lights were in kanji. Okay, it was all those neon lights were in kanji written form. I'm not even lying. The Hello Kitty shit was all over the place with X's, and then just the kanji stuff everywhere. And I was like, Irwin, this is Atlanta. I understand in most cyberpunks, like the Chinese have taken over and it's all over the place. But again, you need to separate it, even though it's familiar. And so I gave him that note, and he immediately went back. Like, I think I still have the 2 pictures of it in kanji, and then mine next to it that I could show off. And you could just see the difference. But at the same time, it still turned out beautiful. And yeah, so he's not one of those artists that are like, fuck you when you give a note or anything. He's very much open to your ideas and imagery. And also, I asked him if he feels that something needs to be looked at some way, let me know about it. And if I like it, I'll give a go ahead on it, because some of the stuff that he does for the page, I didn't even think of. And it turns out great. We were so in sync with the first issue. Of course, he's back on for Cobalt Death Stalks Us, and I couldn't be happier.
Excellent. So, you know, one of the nice things about the story too is there's some stories like, okay, I'm going to do a sci-fi story, so it's all about like space. The story is space. But in this, even though it's set there, I like that you have that family tension between Jesse and Isaac, and you know, they actually have a group of friends. I mean, maybe Jesse is not quite well adjusted, but in general, they seem more or less well adjusted and integrated into their community. You know, so you can clearly see other people in the world. What sort of made you gravitate towards a family story like that, as opposed to just straight up sci-fi action?
I've always been more fascinated with character driven stories. Like, you know, you've got the whole John Wick's a good example, you know, because it is very much just fast paced, action packed gun fu, you know, kung fu, gun fu. And what's really cool about it is that all these characters have these connection that you don't exactly get to see play out in their past histories, but you know, they're there with the way they speak to each other, the way they hold, you know, each other with high regards. And you don't need a lot of noise to take away from that. I think family oriented stories are great. You know, I very much enjoy the show This Is Us. Yeah.
Interesting.
My girlfriend got me into it, and I watch it. I'm not gonna lie, I'll cry like a baby at almost every episode, but it is that kind of show that makes you do that. It expects you to. So, when you sit down for that, you just got to get ready for it because you know what you're about to be into, so you just prepare. But character-driven stories like that have always appealed to me more. Very much for Cobalt and Jesse, I wanted that because I also have a younger brother, not as young as Isaac, but I have a brother who's 2 years younger than I am. And we've had those squabbles before that Jesse and Isaac are, they're going to be having in Death Stalks Us. But, so I always wanted the readers to connect to the characters too, because when it comes to TV shows like, I'm about to go weeb with it for a little bit, like Dragon Ball Z or Initial D, Cowboy Bebop, and stuff like that. I don't care about the characters where it just works out linearly for him the whole time. Goku is a joke for Dragon Ball Z. Nothing ever changes for him. It's just him just overpowering everything at the very end. Whereas Vegeta and Piccolo actually have that character development, that twist where they were evil and they become friends, or they just tolerate the people that they're around at that point. But character development like that is what really makes characters, and I'm hoping that I'm showing that in Cobalt.
Yeah, I think so. In some ways, it reminds me of what Marvel was doing in the 80s. In the 70s, they were big into their cosmic adventures and this and that. But even though the characters, like the men, would generally have a girlfriend or something, like they didn't really seem that grounded. But once you start getting in the 80s, you see like the X-Men. It's in a lot of ways a family drama, and they can play off of everything. But I think it really helps people get into the story more or care about the characters more. Right. Otherwise, it's just like, how good is the art? Or how cool was this action scene? Right. You're not necessarily rooting for the character itself.
No, like another show I'm going to be going into, which is a little weeb. Initial D it, it's about drag racing in Tokyo. And so, that's where Tokyo Drift got their idea. But so in this show, a bunch of the characters are very much those flat-faced, don't show any emotion because you want to be able to project your emotion, which is total bullshit. I hate that. But you're supposed to be able to project your thoughts and everything onto this blank slate of protagonists, and I hate that. I feel like, these characters would be feeling certain ways at certain points, and if you're not showing that, I feel like you're missing out on the key component to that whole scene. But there are these girls that that fall in love with these drivers, and it's out of fucking nowhere. Like they meet them and they're like, "Oh God, I can look at his eyes, all this stuff." He says 3 sentences to him, and in the next episode, she's like, "I'm rooting for you, baby, my love, my darling." These are actual quotes from this character that's only met this person for maybe 3 seconds of screen time. And I'm just like, that was just shoehorned into that. And I hate that idea. So for me, I'm trying to stay away from the girlfriend side of the relationship stories, because I feel like for this, it's going to take away from it. Like the Detective Reyes, don't expect her to hook up with Cobalt. It's not going to happen. It won't happen. I'm not going to let it happen.
I'm actually glad you said that, because I'm fine with romantic stories and everything, but one thing that bugs me about most media today, comics, movies, TV, is why do the men and the women always have to get together?
Not only that,
get together and friends and work well.
Right. And not only get together in that one single film. Are you joking me?
Yeah, exactly.
You know you're trying to do a trilogy or some epic multiverse shit. Give it time to grow. Let them hate each other for a little bit. Let them not trust each other. Sure. I mean, not to the extent of like the CW shows, which is just like high school bullshit. but like, make it warranted.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some form of like, earning trust and that growing relationship, as opposed to just like, oh, she's hot, let's do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
All right.
I don't know. I'm just weird like that.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about, if I get this right here, about Cobalt 2 Death Stalks Us.
Okay. So Cobalt Death Stalks Us picks up right after Cobalt Atlantis Thrashing. So where that last issue, that last page of that issue ends, is right where we pick up with the first page of issue 2. So there's no time frame in between that you've missed. It very much launches right into the story as I had it set out to be. This is a very linear story. It's moving forward. There's not a whole lot of going backwards with it. No detours to take. No exits off the ramp. It's very much going forward with how I want to see it take place. And so if you read the first one, which if you didn't, I don't want to give too much away, but everything that happened, because you have it, so I can say it. So everything that happened with the Thrashers, they're not happy about it. And they're going to be talking to their benefactor, and they're going to be trying to, get even. The Death Stalker, hence Death Stalks Us. He's actually right there hovering above Cobalt on that cover page. He's going to be very prominent in the coming issues, and this is where it picks up for his character. So I introduced basically the good guys and what is kind of like happening within the criminal underbelly right now in Atlanta, with the Thrashers having a benefactor, and something's moving around Atlanta. Like they're moving cargo around, but nobody really knows what it is yet. And but wait till you find out. So it's very much everybody's starting to learn who each other are. Jesse Cobalt is trying to get to his armor at this point, and he can't at this certain point because of people around him. And Detective Reyes, she is just going to be as lost as ever in issue 2, but she's going to be able to like slowly put the pieces together of who these characters are, what they're playing in, and so it's all coming to fruition in issue 2.
Okay. So in issue 1, we do see that Isaac is kind of sort of getting trained in martial arts. I forget the guy's name. Their friend was training him with a rubber knife.
Thomas Rogers.
Yes, Thomas Rogers. So are we going to see a little bit of like superhero envy rivalry between Jesse and Isaac? Like Isaac's like, well, if you can do it, so can I. Or
that'll be taking place. That won't be taking place just yet, because I do have the idea that Cobalt is going to be an ongoing series. But yes, these elements are there for you to look at and pick up on and be like, oh, I see what you're doing there, and then wait for it down the line.
Excellent. All right. So here we go. So one of the things that I do like is it seems like you've got copies of Cobalt 1 for anyone who missed it, so they can pick it up with Cobalt 2.
Yes. I think anybody that launches a first issue, knowing that they're going to be trying to do a series or a mini series, either way, should have a catch-up tier. So that's basically what that featured tier is. The ICYMI is, pardon me, in case you missed it, physical tier.
And why don't you run us through some of these other tiers here?
Sure. Digital Fragment 2.0 is exactly what it is. It is a digital PDF of Cobalt Death Stalks Us at $15. The next one is the digital, in case you missed a tier, at $25, which will include the PDF for both Atlantis Thrashing, and Death Stalks Us. Of course, there is the physical fight, which is just the single issue of Death Stalks Us, but you also get a little chibi sticker. And yeah, they're cute. I've got them right here. Where the hell did I put it? That's what happens when you pick up comics, man. You just all your stuff just goes away.
Disappears.
Yeah. So we had the cutesy ones last time. So on Atlantis Thrashing, we had these little cute ones right here. Mm-hmm. And now we're kind of tuning up a little bit more with a little bit more aggression. Cobalt's gotten a little bit angry, so this is him right here.
Nice.
So, not too big of a difference, but a little bit. Very good.
There we go.
I like being able to show samples of the tiers.
Yeah, for sure. But, so what do you get with the Be Vigilant?
Be Vigilant. At $40, you get the physical copy of Death Stalks Us. You get the chibi sticker, and you get a 16x20 poster of that splash page of Cobalt overlooking Engage, the Thrasher's hangout. And I actually have that
nice
here framed. Yeah, buddy. It's just there we go.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. I knew as soon as I saw it when Erwin drew it up, I was like, yeah, that's definitely going to be a poster. And it is.
Out of curiosity, do you know how long it took him to make that?
His turnover rate is insane. So he's completed the first 11 pages for Cobalt Death Stalks Us, lines and colors. And we still have, out of 32 pages, 11, we got 21 more pages to go, but he has 11 completed. And his turnover rate is phenomenal, man. Like he can get like 3 pages out in a week.
Really?
It's nuts. Yes.
Man, that's awesome.
I don't understand how, but he does it.
With the colors as well?
With the colors as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
He must have a lot of free time.
Yeah, you hear that, Comicsgate Kings? He lives at home too with his family. He does the same thing.
All right. So we got Take My Hand.
Yep. Take My Hand is the $100 tier. Here you get the physical copy of Cobalt Death Stalks Us, a chibi sticker. But for $75 in that tier, you get your own full page ad space for whatever comic you're about to promote.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the name's Cobalt.
Yep. This is also a $100 tier. These are the highest tiers on this campaign, but the name's Cobalt. You get the physical copy of Death Stalks Us. You get the chibi sticker. You get the 16x20 poster. And then you get the 12x18 metal print by Phoenix Animation with art by Adam Miller.
Now, I have to say, this is probably my favorite piece of swag that has come with a campaign. Awesome. I don't keep most of them. I just don't have room. But this has actually been useful on so many occasions. I can't even tell you. I actually use it for woodworking, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm glad to give you a piece that you can use. I never knew I had a tool.
And it's funny too, because like they sell woodworking. It's basically like a metal thing, like this shape. And they're like $20. And I'm like, man, I don't want to spend $20 for a piece of metal. That's ridiculous. And then not too long after, this thing came in the mail.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm glad I could help you out with that.
And so, it looks like Erwin's really keeping up with the art. I mean,
most definitely.
In some ways, I would even say it looks better.
Yeah, when
he's really sort of getting into it.
Yeah, when we were doing issue 1, he had other projects that he was working on also, but he was still shelling out like 2 pages a week with everything done, and I was just like, yeah, sure. And he would present me with thumbs right out the gate after I said cool. He would go to lines, And after he did his shaded lines, the grayscales, I gave him the thumbs up and told him how awesome it looked, he was like, well, you just wait till I color it. And so I waited, and just blew my mind every time. Every time I got a new page from him, I felt like a star was born, or like a planet came to fruition, or it was great. I loved every minute.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be one of the most nerve-wracking things when you're the author of a book and you're like, okay, I'm trusting this guy. I'm hoping, I'm praying it's going to come back good, because you don't want to get art that's like, then it's like, oh crap, did I waste my money? But like when you get something like this, it's like, yes.
Yeah. When I put out the ad on some Facebook groups for comic artists, and Irwin was the only one that presented art like that, and so it was the exact kind of grit, rough lines that I wanted. So of course I got him right out the gate. I couldn't see me continuing Cobalt with anybody else.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned that you did want Cobalt to be an ongoing series. So do you have like a plan, like in terms of like, every year we're going to do one issue, or do you think, like 35 pages, I think it said 35, right?
32.
Do you think maybe at some point you'll get to like 32 page volumes twice a year, or?
I would, with it being 32, if I got the backers and the eyes on it that I would like to have for it, I wouldn't mind turning it into like 64-page books or 80-page books.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, at this point where I'm at, I am trying to release at least one 32-page book every year. So like 2021 was issue 1, 2022 issue 2, 2023. Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, that just happened on its own. I had no idea that. But
do you see yourself working on other series at the same time as well, or are you just going to stick to like one issue a year?
I have other things percolating on the back burner that I want to do and everything. But when it comes to Stalks, when it comes to Cobalt, I want to continue with Cobalt. Of course, it's the base of Talent Studio. It was my first love. It's what made me want to continue creating. But I do have other stories that I want to present and show off. And if you go to the updates page here, you'll see the cover art for one that I'm going to be presenting if we hit the $4,000, the first $1,000 here. So right here, it's art by Simon Pothier of the Natverse, with colors by Oliver over at 656 Comics, the Cryptidnals.
Oh, nice.
And so this character here is Brickhouse. Now, it's not spelled out house like house. It's the German way with Haus. So this is Brickhouse, and me and Dojo Kun Comics both have a character named Brickhouse, and we actually want to make like a little mini comic of those two battling it out for who gets the rights to the name. But that's down the line. But it's fun. So yeah, that's what's going to be taking place if we get to 4,000. I always want to put a 7-page origin story in each comic from here on out. And then when I do that with Brickhouse, when it comes to issue 3 for Cobalt, I want to do one for a title I'm working on called Damascus. It's more of like a manga style 7 Deadly Sins type thing with mythology and folklore from all different parts of the world coming together to make one singular thing. And then the third one will be called Rayet, which will be my space sci-fi project. So if you know about stars in space or anything, it's not cosmetology, is it? No, that's makeup shit. It's astrology, I guess.
Yeah. But, astrology or cosmology.
There we go. Yes. All right. But if we go with that, then there is a star called the Rayet Wolf Star. And it's basically two stars that dance around each other as they go through space. And at one point in time, they're going to connect and just have this big boom effect when they run into each other. So the main character will be Rayet, while the other character is Wolf. And I'm trying really hard not to make Wolf a fucking humanoid wolf, because I think Comicsgate has enough of that.
Wolves are popular.
Yes, they very much are.
It's like the go-to.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep away from that, even though it's right there for me to grab.
Very nice. And so then the brick house will be in the back of Stalks Us.
Yes, after we hit the fixed goal of 3,000, if we can hit 4,000, that first $1,000 tier, that will be the unlockable for a 7-page origin story, and that's the cover art right there.
And then if that's done, do you have any plan to turn it into a book of her own, or?
I have plans to do a book of each one, but I want to I want to get those 7-page origin stories out first in the first 4 issues, because I want to take a poll later on Twitter to see which one they enjoyed most, and then present that one out, because that one got the most likes.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. So this is your second campaign.
Yes.
Do you have any big revelations, or what sort of tips and tricks did you pick up going through the hardships of an initial campaign?
Tips and tricks. One tip is do not do free shipping. So of course it was my first outing in the first book, so I wanted to get it out there. So I knew I would be taking a hit with the free shipping. I was already prepared for that, even though I still say that I hate doing that. I think with the first one, being a newcomer and everything, showing off all the completed art that you have, giving free shipping, except for outside of US. I did make those guys pay. Sorry, but yeah. Free shipping, you could, if you want to, I would suggest doing it for the first outing. Showing samples of the tier rewards is a pretty good idea, if I do say so myself. And but when it comes to second launch, just make sure you have all your ducks in order, because everybody's going to run into certain things differently on their first campaign. You're not going to have the same problems I did, or me with yours, because I didn't run into the problem of there being a paper shortage and having to wait on my book to be put out. A lot of people did right after me, and I felt so bad for them because they couldn't fulfill when they wanted to. Even though all the ducks were in order up to that point, there's still some stuff that is not that can't be foreseen. And so I just say, after you launch your first book, just, write down your own notes, because you're going to learn it one way or another. Me saying what to do or what not to do is not going to be 100%. You got Rob and Michael Bancroft for that.
And so also you've seems like you've mastered the circuit. How do you sort of navigate the sheer volume of shows that are on YouTube now?
I in no means have mastered it. I just I've finally gotten comfortable enough. If you hear me now versus I'm sorry. I don't even know what I did.
All right, so we'll be back in a minute. He is on bionic baby duty. So let's just for a second. You got him. Okay.
He's just grouchy. But so I'm sorry, where was I?
You were talking about making the rounds on different.
Oh yeah, by no means am I a master of getting on streams and making rounds. Dojo Kun actually got on 80 different stream shows or podcasts to shill out Siamese. And so I need to learn from him. But yeah, like I said, you could tell from like me presenting now versus me back at the beginning when I first did my pitch on I believe it was Sporkman Studios stream was my very first, and you could just hear me stumbling all over my shit. I kept on saying like, and you know, I could have stuck a fork in my eye. I was so disappointed with it. But you know, now, I mean, yeah, I just got comfortable enough. I knew what I needed to do and how to present, and hopefully be likable to come back another time. And you know, it's worked out. This time around with issue 2, I did not hit the streams as much as I should have, but you know, reasoning. So
express.
Yeah, so you know, right after we fulfilled Atlantis Thrashing, I basically dropped off the radar for a little bit just because I was burnt out. After you do so much shilling, creating a comic and everything, you just want to decompress. And I only got to decompress for about 2 more months until this little guy showed up. So I was even more out of touch with everybody and everything. And so I do think your presence is needed, not just posting on Twitter and Instagram all the time. I think your presence is needed if you're going to be launching any kind of campaign. I don't think any clout from your first one is going to help out that much because, as you can see, after 35 days left, 47 backers. I did this amount in my first 20 days on the first campaign. And I mean, you know, so making rounds is very much a must.
Yeah, I think so. That is one thing that I've noticed. You know, and you're absolutely right. Most people are just absolutely dead once that campaign fulfills. There's, you know, some people who have been on here and they go on a ton of other shows, and we normally talk, you know, here and there. And like for the next month or so after their campaign's done, like if I send them a message, I won't hear anything. They're just like, no, I'm tired. Go away.
Which, don't get me wrong, like when people would call on me to like be on a stream or be like, hey, do you want to be on one? I would jump at it. I would want to be on it right then and there. It's just, yeah, the last 4 months haven't really allowed it. I mean, I work mornings, afternoons. The missus works evenings. That's how we're setting it up to take care of this little guy because there ain't no stranger touching him until about 3 years old. But
it's a good arrangement.
Well, they say, well, I don't want to get too much into it, I guess. I don't want to bore people, but you know, the first 2 years are where they do the most attachment and trust in their development. So we're trying to keep it just within the immediate family. So
yeah, no, you're right. My sister-in-law had a baby. She's 2, and my mother-in-law, she's from Taiwan, and she's like, God, I want to go back so much, but she's hanging out, you know, to take care of the baby until I think. Well, she said she was going to stick it out until my niece is 5, and I don't know if she's going to do that. But yeah, I think you're right. You know, and plus you got to get him trained because in a few years, you know, he'll be the right size to start stuffing envelopes and help dad.
Exactly. Yes. They'll be the next generation for indie comics.
Go put a poster in every one of those boxes. You gotta start early.
There we go. He'll be like, okay.
So you're an artist, an entrepreneur, but you're also a consumer. So what books have you been looking at recently?
Well, I just received The Embrace in the mail. I just got Black Tiger, Hidden Dragon from John from Beyond Time Inc., Beyond Time Comics. Mm-hmm. Star Circuit, of course. Let's see what other ones I got here. Oh, I've got Max Bertolini's from Kickstarter, the cover artist for Atlantis Thrashing. He put out his own indie comic called Hangar 66. the second issue is actually up and running on Kickstarter right now. And yeah, again, phenomenal work with the Painterly Arts. You know, I don't really care if you do Kickstarter or Indiegogo, in my own opinion. You know, Mike Barron, I believe it is, Thin Blue Line, launched it over on Kickstarter. I immediately went over there and supported it and got it. Of course, I've got the Lucent right here next to me. So, you know,
nice.
And then, plenty of others. I've got the first 3 volumes for John Malin's Graveyard Shift. God, there's so many. I've got Sovereign Wolf. I've got Aerith Saga, Quintilian Wars. I'm about to get Roach Balls when it launches tonight. You know, nice. And then of course I back Cerebrum. You know, I gotta support B Rose. He supported me. Back Mavericks from Nefarious. Back Mavericks from NTM. So, you know,
very cool. All right. So, is there anything else that we should know about Cobalt?
Yeah, you're going to be getting another badass issue, man. There's going to be the action picks up right at the beginning, just like the first one did. More components will be placed around for you to pick up on for later issues, and of course, like I've tried to tell them, this is very much an all-out war for all gangs of Atlanta to try and take the #1 spot that the Aranya left behind. So, you know, we started out with the Thrashers. We'll be running into other gangs soon that are going to be trying to take the #1 spot. There's going to be a lot of backstabbing, a lot of side deals taking place, and everybody thinks that they have one up on one another, and that's where it gets juicy.
Nice.
So nobody's going to know anything until the end.
Very cool. All right, well, for everyone, Cobalt Death Stalks Us. You can find the link in the description to this video. It's got about another month or so based on the date of this video. So definitely go check it out.
Oh,
Jay,
one more thing. All the way down at the bottom of the campaign page. So Dojo Kun Comics right now has Jane Hardy's The Healing Wars. Oh, go up a bit more. It's going to be that last picture with Cobalt and Naya on the front. Oh, back on the campaign page. My bad. Story.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. So this piece right here, yeah. Dojo Kun Comics and I have made a collaboration for not only my campaign but his. His is Janice Hardy's The Healing Wars, Book 1, The Shifter. And then if you back his campaign at a physical level and mine at a physical level, you'll be getting this piece done by Shelby Robertson, consisting of 22 different CG characters. No, 15 different CG characters. I got the numbers backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 20 characters by 15 different comic creators. There we go. But they all come from different comic books within Comicscape. So, of course, you got the Embrace up there. You got the Boss from the Company Men. You got Type 1. You got Reaper Destroyer. You got Ragetality. You've got Saint from Cerebrum, the Canadian Shield, and the Siamese Twins from Dojo Kun. You've got Black Flag from Black Frag. You got Krishna Kid from Commie Mark. Tailless from Aria. I mean, so there were many people that wanted to jump on this idea and supported both me and Dojo Kun. And just wanted to shout that out to everybody. I wanted to thank those creators for being part of it. And I want to thank Dojo for approaching me and wanting to be a part of his collaboration.
Oh, well, that's awesome. It's good to see creators getting together and collabing on different books.
Yeah. Yeah. So Naya from Janice Hardy's The Healing Wars, The Shifter, Naya right there is the shifter, and of course, right next to her is Cobalt. And this is an homage piece from X-Men issue 141. So you know how it shows like Wolverine and Kitty Pryde with the wanted poster behind them. It's an homage to that.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. You can find the link in the description. Jake, thank you for coming back. You're always welcome to come on whenever you have time. And like the video, subscribe, and Saturday, so 3-4 days from now, I will have Chloe the cartographer, who makes a lot of maps for role-playing games. She'll be on, and we'll be talking all about maps and art.
Really?
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Oh, I might have to hit her up for a Cyberpunk Atlanta map.
I bet you. All right, so
thank
you very much, everyone.
All right.